it seems like a lot of artists these days don't think about trying to get more than just their Facebook likes or their TikTok likes or their YouTube, whatever it is, and they don't build that email list or the list of people who were the fans at the shows or the people who did engage with them. And I see that's great you went to do that show or the gig. If you don't walk away with a list of at least several dozen people, what was the point? Like, there's no lasting or lifetime value that was generated from that.
I think the modern musician has to think kind of two different directions. One direction is the online aspect, the digital streaming, the social media. I do think it's important, and especially with creating reputability. As original music artists, sometimes it's hard for us to find venues to play in until we kind of have some momentum and some networking. And so having the ability to say, hey, we got 10,000 people on social following us, we'll promote, that stuff is super helpful.
Welcome to the podcast today. My name is Jason Tonioli, and we are with Sean Monahan. So Sean is based out of South Carolina, down in Charleston, where they have the best pork chops and best pig pickings ever. I actually lived right down near where you're at, Sean. But Sean is part of a group called Gale Bird, and they have been releasing music. They've been doing a lot of kind of shows as well. What I think is interesting is Sean and the others in your group. Sean, you guys are parents. You got kids, you're trying to do the music thing. You're also doing some marketing type of stuff as well. So you're kind of one of those musicians that juggling things on multiple levels, but you guys are doing some very cool things, and I'm excited to have you on the podcast today.
Man, thank you for having me, Jason. I'm excited to be here.
Well, Sean, let's dive right in. So you guys have this kind of band. Let's start with give a quick overview of what is it, the group that you guys have, and then let's kind of rewind back to how you ended up getting to where you're at.
Love it. Yeah. So our band is called Gale Bird. We are like a rock Southern country style band where we playlist as country. We found that out when we're pitching to playlists. They call us country, but our show's a rock show. We have a ton of fun. It's me, my friend Joshua Gale, and his wife Melissa, and then we typically have a great band behind us, and we have a good time. We've been playing for a long time together too. So me and Josh go back to college. Probably 15 years ago now. We've been playing, writing, playing around town, and we took a little break, got married, had kids. I have 2 kids, and he and Melissa have 4. And we started back up a couple years ago, got signed with a label locally, and just trying to make this work with the family. And it's not the easiest thing, but we think it's doable.
Yeah. Well, so as you were growing up, did you have this dream that you always wanted to do the music thing? And was it one of those like, oh, maybe this is just kind of fun in college? Like, where did this all come from?
I think it kind of just, I never really actively thought about it. It just kind of made sense. I loved music. I was very involved, both at the church I was at. I was playing 4 or 5 times a week there. I was taking lessons. I was competing in classical piano competitions. I was picking up guitar. Throughout my whole childhood, it was kind of a central thing for me. And it was kind of who I was seen as. So I think I just assumed that was where I would head. So I go to college, and I started in both music, and then I also did a math degree as kind of a just in case, and I don't know what this will look like. So did both degrees and ended up kind of navigating towards jazz performance and theory, and then also did composition. And I think once that was finished, I kind of dipped my toe a little bit in some software design stuff to see if that's where I wanted to head, but quickly realized I wanted to do music full time, and it was a important part of my life, and I think I had the business sense to make it work. So right after college, I was starting to teach lessons. I was starting to gig around town. I started working at a church, running some music there, and kind of had to go multiple streams of income for a long time. Actually, that's still how it is now. I got a lot of things going on. But yeah, I think it just made sense, and that's where I wanted to head.
Yeah. Well, so you talked about the business side of things is because I know you've been a marketing guy a little bit. as you look at musicians, because you've been around them a lot over the years,
Hmm.
what advice would you have for musicians when it comes to learning business or learning marketing that you think might be helpful?
I think when I was younger and this narrative was kind of projected to me of, if you want to be a musician, you have to sell yourself fully to the art, to the craft. And what that craft was defined as was either technical ability or opportunity at all cost on a stage. And I think that for a long time, I subscribed to that. There was a year after college that I didn't get paid a whole lot, and I practiced 5 hours a day because that's what I was told you had to do. And I mean, I'm grateful I did. It definitely helped me, but I think I discounted a lot of opportunities I had to learn things that now I'm realizing were extremely valuable as a musician. So, I'm getting into the marketing stuff a lot now, and I'm realizing like that's such an important part of being a musician is learning, how to show my stuff to the world. At the end of the day, I could make the most beautiful thing possible, but if no one sees it, all it is therapy. It doesn't do anyone a whole lot of good if they don't ever hear it. So
Right.
I think that for me, that was a big thing that it took me a while to learn is like I could, spend all my hours on technicality, but there are these other aspects that create success in musicianship that maybe don't always look like music, but they're equally as important.
Yeah. I mean, if you were, 20 years old and sitting in school now, is there specific things, for somebody who wants to do music, what specific things would you recommend to yourself to focus on now that you've had to be thrown into the fire and you've had to figure it out the hard way over the last many years?
Yeah, I go right back to I had an ear training class and this professor who she was a Russian pianist and as good as they come, she was, just one of the best. And she said something that has stuck with me. She said, at the end of the day, all music is entertainment. And so as a musician, your goal, is not to be just a technical player, but people want to be entertained. And that can look a lot of different ways in a lot of different genres, a lot of different venues. But once I realized that that was the goal, that changed a lot of my mindset. So obviously I want to be authentic and true to the sounds that I hear, but going back to earlier, if nobody hears it, it doesn't matter. And if I'm at a gig singing my heart out, but people aren't entertained, they're not as likely to help fund this to continue. And so yeah, I think I would echo her and just say, at the end of the day, this is entertainment. And the more I can learn about stage presence and how to, sell my craft, how to tell a story well, those are just integral elements to the communication that music is.
Yeah. Well, one of the areas where I see many people kind of be hesitant to do that is they might be good on stage, but then it seems like a lot of artists these days don't think about trying to get more than just their Facebook likes or their TikTok likes or their YouTube, whatever it is. And they don't build that email list or the list of people who were the fans at the shows or the people who did engage with them. And I see, that's great you went to do that show or the gig, but if you don't walk away with a list of at least several dozen people, what was the point? Like there's no lasting or lifetime value that was, generated from that engagement that you did from entertaining them, right? They just move on to the next one. They forget about you tomorrow, right?
I think the modern musician has to think kind of two different directions. One direction is the online aspect, the digital streaming, the social media. I do think it's important, and especially with creating reputability
Hmm.
as original music artists. Sometimes it's hard for us to find venues to play in until we kind of have some momentum and some networking. And so having the ability to say, "Hey, we got 10,000 people on social following us. We'll promote that stuff is super helpful." So I don't want to discount it, but that stuff doesn't pay our bills. At the end of the day, what pays us more is things like merch sales, things like, live venue ticket sales, local vendors that want to be a part of our festivals, whatever that would look like. And so we've realized that there's a second target we almost need to focus on separately. That's the local audience. And I mean, those are the people that are going to be the most loyal. And so having something tailored to them is, yeah, it's so important. I love that idea. Like an email list. For us, a lot of it is creating pop-up events that we maybe will push ads to within a targeted region, um, doing things within local groups, churches, different clubs, and things. Yeah, building that local audience to help sustain us as we then try to build the digital audience.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to spend several hours one night with Rick Barker. He was Taylor Swift's manager for the first several years of her career, and he was sharing kind of stories of things that he helped. I'm sure there was lots of overlap and different people doing different things, but he would talk about how she would perform at a show, and she was opening at the time for some big name country people, and yet she would be the one sitting at the table signing autographs and doing CDs and just engaging with that audience. And I think from a musician standpoint, the engagement, not only when you're on stage and you're entertaining them, but then having that engage or making an effort above and beyond what the other guy's doing to engage them after the show and spend as much time as you need to kind of almost become friends with them. Like you need the audience members to feel like they know you and they need to like you. And the way you do that is through connecting. The hard part is you can't, I think, you can go sign CDs and you get that little 30-second or 2-minute moment with that person after the show, but you can't do that with 60,000 people or 5,000 people or even 1,000 people. And so having that list, I think any musician listening, it's very important to think about, okay, what's the ideal customer journey? If you just had one person who could be your fan, what would you do for that person? If like your career was make or break, if this person is going to fall in love with your music and want to listen to you forever. So I mean, you would probably go drive to their house and go sing them a song on their porch with your guitar, type of thing, right? And so I think as musicians, finding those ways that we can connect, whether that's, maybe somebody bought merch from you at the concert you were doing, if you're a gigging musician. Well, do you have anything to take that purchase that they either Venmo'd you or paid you somehow? Are you taking that name and then are you following up with a thank you note?
Mhm.
Maybe you could mail them a note. Maybe you send them an email. Maybe you send them a text and just say, "Hey, this is Sean. I just, saw you were at the show. Just wanted to say thank you." And, maybe you want to get as personal as like, "Hey, saw you bought this hat or this T-shirt from us, and just wanted to say thanks. I hope you get some cool comments from people." But just finding ways to engage, and going back to kind of the Taylor Swift comments and just kind of things that Taylor would do when she was young in her career, where she would be online on the social media platforms, just chatting and responding to people or doing something nice for somebody. Or, I think it's just absolutely key as an artist to find those moments, and they're all around us. And you mentioned earlier, like you felt like you had to sell yourself. And I think the sooner artists can get over the idea of selling, you're not really selling anything. You're there to entertain, but in a lot of ways you're there to serve and kind of be there to help that person, whether they're needing to feel better or they just want to sing in their car and be happy. It's, what are the ways that you as an artist can be there when they need you?
Mhm.
And I feel like that type of thing is the real game changer as a musician, of knowing, hey, I've made a difference, for even if it was just that one person, if it's the only fan you had, how can you make that difference? And then how do you scale that and do it for 2 and 4 and 10 and just do it for more and more, right?
Yeah, and I think realizing that people when they're coming to see you, they might not remember every song you played, but they're going to remember how they felt,
Absolutely.
either in the show or afterwards when you're talking to them. So, yeah, I think that's exactly right. Creating those touch points with people, being very specific with it. And then I think that is an area where you can overlap with your social media, where you're not just reaching a giant universal audience, but you have a lot of local followers as well. And making them feel like, they're a part of my journey because
Yeah.
I did a shout out to Charleston and like, yeah, I think about a band like Need to Breathe. They're a huge band now, but they came from Charleston. And so, they post something up about Charleston, Charleston folk get excited. And so I do think that there is an overlap that can be really helpful too.
Absolutely. And I think what's cool, you rewind back 20 years ago and there was really no way to show behind the scenes and show who you were. It was a lot harder to show who you were. So you had to go to a concert to know what was going on in that artist's life. And today, with all of the different social platforms, I mean, I can put a video and I can show you. I mean, somebody can walk into the grocery store, and I guess if you really had an engaged enough follower, they would think that was cool. I think there's a whole lot of better ways to do. I think there's that fine line of what's an interesting thing to show about the behind the scenes for an artist versus posting a picture of your food on your plate that you sometimes see, or cat videos, or whatever thing it is. I think it's 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 a challenge that I think artists need to kind of step up to the plate and just share the behind the scenes story. Is it a
Mm.
story about your guitar? Is it a story about how you wrote this song? Is it a story about how you went to an event and how you felt and how it impacted you when you came? Those stories of growing up as kids. There's so many stories that I think every human being has. And the sooner artists can recognize that they actually are more interesting than they think they are, and be willing to share the stories and it's not just to entertain, but it's just really to to become, you know, a friend with that person so that they really feel like they know who you are and fall in love with you as a person and care about you. And I think the way you do that is you have to care about your fans, and that needs to come out in the storytelling, if that's the type of artist you want to be. I guess if you want to be I guess there's a lot of artists that don't care too, but I think the most successful ones actually very much engage and care about their people they play for.
I wonder if there is a kind of a negative stereotype for a lot of artists that they think if they feel like they're acting in a performance or on stage, that they're not being true to themselves. But I think that that almost should be recalculated because you could say the same of like, oh, if I practice my instrument, I'm, you know, I'm being inauthentic. It's not how I really play. But the reality is no, you're practicing your instrument to get better at your craft. And I think it's the same with storytelling, with your stage presence, your live show. It's not that you're being inauthentic when you're working on those things. If you're practicing singing in front of a mirror to look at your facial expressions and see how you interact with people and what you respond like, that's just building your craft. It's not being
Right.
inauthentic. And I think a lot of people, especially someone like myself growing up, would have felt like that was taking away from the artistry, which I don't know where I got that from. It's kind of silly.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where artists think that that there's a certain way to do it, and I think the real, I don't know, for me, a measure of success is, one, are you happy? Are you enjoying
Mm,
what you're doing? And then I think once you've become content and happy with who you are and what your music and what you've been able to do, I think the next level in the video game, if you want to think of it that way, is how do I help others be happy? How do I bless and help others? And I think what's cool with when you start doing that, you start realizing, man, I felt way better blessing that person's life or helping that person feel good than just me doing the thing. Like, it
mhm.
feels good when you're playing that guitar, but when you have like 10 people that you literally touched and they're like, oh, it helped me so much. That's where, it's just the next level of video game. And I think a lot of people hold themselves back where they think, oh, I don't want to, build the website, or I don't want to have, I don't want to send a text message to my people. They don't want to hear from me. I don't want to email them. Well, the reality is you're going to bless a whole lot more people. And it's just, art. I think as artists, we just need to ask ourselves, are we ready to level up our
Mm.
game? And do we want to have a bigger impact and reach and help more people? And at least from everything I've found, every time I, do something nice for somebody or help somebody, it feels really good, and it feels better than just me doing something only for myself. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
so, well, Sean, I'm curious your definition, I guess, of a successful musician. If you're asked, what is a successful musician to you? What would you say that is?
Man, that's a good question. I think it's definitely changed over the years.
Okay.
I think at this point, being a successful musician is giving my best effort to telling the story. I've really shifted what music means in my life. And I was an instrumentalist for a long time before I started singing, and so it was very much like, "Is this riff cool?" And I still love that aspect of it. I love it, but now it's kind of morphed to, does this riff tell the story that this song is trying to communicate? So, to answer your question, I think that a successful musician is someone that is just able to do their best, whether it's, getting paid full time, part time, or not at all, but doing their best to tell their story in every opportunity that they get.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, Sean, I think we're about out of time, but if people want to go check out some of your stuff, you guys have some really cool songs. If you're listening to this, you should absolutely go check out their songs. Where's the best place for them to go find Gale Bird and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, all of it is on galebird.com, GALE bird.com. We've got, a number of songs out, and kind of our niche that we've kind of found ourselves in is we're all married, and we're all figuring out what being married is like too, and what a successful marriage looks like. And so a lot of the songs come out of us, just what do we need to remind ourselves of? So like me and Josh will write, a lot of them are, as a husband, how can I encourage myself to love my wife better, or relationships around us, friendships? How can we be more intentional? We just had a single come out called Roses, and the concept is, I don't want to hold my roses until your funeral. I want to give them to you now. And so whatever that looks like in your life, I want to be encouraging now before it's too late. So
Yeah.
I think that that's a little area we found that it's ministering to us, but we found it also is really encouraging to a lot of other people. So I love that you were talking about the service aspect of music, because I think that that's one of the most rewarding things I've seen in my career, is having people that are moved and encouraged by the craft that we've spent so much time working on.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. So again, go to galebird.com, and if they go on Spotify or iTunes or wherever they're listening,
Everywhere. Yep.
they play music by Gale Bird, and then go check out your stuff too. So definitely, thank you so much for sharing with us, and I hope those that are listening, I know they've definitely gotten some great advice today. So thanks so much, Sean.
Thank you, Jason.
Hey, it's Jason here, and I hope you've gotten a lot of value out of this episode. Be sure to check out our show notes to learn more about our guest today, and if you'd like to support our podcast, there's a few things that you can do to help us grow. First, if you hit subscribe, it will help ensure that you don't miss a future episode. Second, if you'll share it with your friends on social media or send it via email or message, it helps us spread the word as well. And third, if you'll leave an honest review, it really helps with the algorithms so that other people can find our podcast. Finding success and fulfillment in the music industry is possible, and I look forward to seeing you on our next episode.